So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our offensive press conference for today for the Penn State Nittany Lions. First, we will start off with our offensive coordinator. Sorry, Andy, I'm sure one day you will be a head coach, but our offensive coordinator for the Penn State Nittany Lions, who enter at 12-2 and the number 6 seed, Andy Kotelnicki. Andy will take questions right away, and so we'll start first with Rich Scarcella. Rich, go ahead.
Thanks, Scott. Andy, what have you noticed your opponents doing defending Tyler Warren in the last couple of games, and has it forced you to be even more creative than you've been?
Yeah, I would say I'll just answer the second part of the question first. I would say that definitely that's the case. I thought we've always done a good job of moving him around to make it hard to the double team him, which is in essence what people want to be able to do, is they don't want to leave him in one-on-one coverages. But that kind of naturally happens with the tight end position, is that it's easier to move them around to basically be in alignments that's harder to do for defenses. So, I don't know that there's anything that's been unique the last couple of weeks, to defend him. Obviously, everyone's aware of him, as they should be. He's, being one of our best players. And so, but again, it's our challenge to make sure that that he's not taken away in the game, right? It's our challenge as an offensive staff to make sure that he is impacting the game. And the cool thing about Tyler is that he impacts the game in ways way beyond just getting catches. When you look at his last game and how well he blocked and some of the, the way he strains, he's making an impact in the game. So, there's nothing really specific that people have been doing, but obviously there's a really heightened sense of awareness for where he's at and what his alignment is and those kind of things. But we want to be diverse enough that it's hard to get a bead on what that is, how he lines up and how it looks.
Thank you, Rich. Next, we'll go to Seth Engel from State College. Seth.
Hey, Andy, happy holidays. Is that a robe you're wearing?
A robe?
Yeah, it looks like a robe from this angle.
It's not. It's a shawl neck cardigan. Thank you for noticing
nice.
it. I'm assuming that's a compliment.
It is.
Right?
No,
that's how I'll take it. Thank you.
Is that a Christmas present? Was that a gift that you got yesterday, or?
No, I've had this for years, and it's a comfortable sweater. It has buttons, so if I feel like buttoning it up, I can. But this is great. I love it. Let's talk about it. It's I forget what brand it is. Oh, it's a Tommy Bahama one. This is nice. This is high quality material here.
Very nice. Aside from that, wanted to ask about Boise State's defense, what you've seen on film from them over the past couple of days.
So first of all, they play great team defense. They're one of the top teams in the country in terms of sacks and disruption up front. So they have some talented players on their defensive line for sure. But they play great complementary team defense. They have a nice pressure package that complements kind of what their base defense is. They've played some really good football throughout the course of the year, but certainly up front, as we talk every week, that's going to be the battle. When you're in playoff football, you're this time of year playing football, you need to be good up front on both sides of the ball. So what you see from them is you see a very disruptive defensive line. You see a defense that's making opponents have to earn their touchdowns and their points, and they're not really giving up things, which is what you would expect at this time of year for a team that's, playing in the playoffs, national playoffs.
Thank you. Next up, we'll go to Tyler Donahue from Lions 24/7. Tyler.
Thank you. Hi, Andy. Thanks for the time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wanted to ask about your running back tandem in Katron and Nick. Is it fair to say that as a collective group, those two are running more effectively than we've seen maybe at any other point this season? And if that is the case, or if it's close to being the case, does it create more opportunities for you in this offense than, say, you maybe would have had in October or November because of the way they're both running the football right now?
Yeah, that's a fair observation. Both are kind of back to being at full strength, and you can kind of see that the last couple of weeks, the way they've both ran the football, they're so complementary of each other in terms of their skill sets and how we use them. Obviously, they're impact players for us, and part of my job, my responsibility is to make sure the impact players are getting the ball. So what that affords me, I guess it affords me some more flexibility to be able to try to utilize those guys in ways that are going to put stress on the defense. But your observation is astute and it's accurate. They're both playing football at the highest level they have this year, which is what it should be at this point in the year. You're right. If we're about daily improvement, if we're about getting better every practice and every game, those things are happening, and that position is very evident of our philosophy and our values.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to Max Ralph from Penn Live. Max.
Hey, Andy, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Perfect timing follow-up on the run game. What is it about the offensive line at this point in the season that they're putting on film that has evolved from week one to now that has this run game kind of humming at a high level?
I would say some consistency. That's the first word that comes to mind, and then also some physicality. When you watch our last game, we played really physical brand of football, which I love. That's who we want to be. We want to be a tough group up front. As a whole offense, we want that, but our offensive line definitely embodies that. So the fact that they're playing together consistently, and the way that they are, the nastiness and the physicality that which they're playing with, and their understanding of what we're trying to do, both in the run and the pass game, specifically for them protection. It's just not. There's just not a lot of mental errors. There's not a lot of busts, and you shouldn't have that anyway. But the way that they have, embraced the idea of kind of being, the reason for how far we'll go. And I always challenge offensive lines. I said our team will go as far as they'll allow us to go. For them to embrace that and love the having that, that impact, if you will, on an offense, on a football team. They've truly embraced that. So, and then Coach Troutwine and Coach Leonard and Coach Q, Coach Sticks, those guys all done a great job working with that group.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to Audrey Snyder from The Athletic. Audrey.
Hey, Andy, thanks for your time. I wanted to kind of ask you, when you think back, gosh, about 13 months ago when you were interviewing for this job, what do you remember about that process and James at that juncture? And has anything maybe surprised you about working with him, throughout this season?
No. Going way back, and it has been 13 months now. Part of the reason to come here, and it's so long ago now, it feels like, although it doesn't some days, was, Coach is very transparent and authentic, which matters, because I kind of feel like I'm that way too. So in the process and the conversations that are being had, it's two very transparent and authentic people communicating, which really leads you to believing that there are no real surprises. So I haven't had any surprises in you don't want to have any kind of regret one way or the other, because he was so authentic through the process. And so being here for a full year, it's exactly as we talked about, and that's why I'm enjoying it so much. So no surprises, very accurate description of how he wants things and how he runs his program, which I love and I think is fantastic. And I've had a ton of fun in the 12 months and 26 days that I've been here.
Thank you. We'll go on to Mark Wogenrich. Mark.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for doing this today. Where is Drew at this point in this Allar? I mean, because you got a couple of Drews. Where is he at this point in the season? How are you guys working together now, as opposed to you did 13 months ago?
Yeah, there's a much greater understanding on his side for sure of what we're doing offensively. We were here just we're game planning obviously, and how fast that can go, and how seamless it can be, on a week-to-week basis because of where we're at. So his understanding, his mastery of the offense obviously has just grown every week since I've been here, and then you get into the season that continued. So he's at a high level with it. We'll always try to get the quarterbacks involved in things, with the game plan, what do they like, what they don't like. And certainly he's been doing that. And when we put game plans together, he's real quick to communicate with myself and Coach O'Brien about what he sees and what he thinks, and that when your trigger man is involved that way, and he's taking ownership in what we're doing, you hopefully can execute things at a high level, and you really hope that that's you're getting a ton of ownership, I guess is the word that I was looking for and I'd said earlier, but because you get a ton of buy-in, you get a ton of execution, you get a ton of reps, you know what I mean? Meaningful reps. And so we don't have a lot of what I call my bads out there in the football field. He knows what's happening. He knows, his reads. He knows what the defense is doing. And he's just at a high level of understanding it right now from where he was 13 months ago.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to John Sauber from the Sinister Daily Times. John?
Hi, Andy. When you get this late in the season, how much are you adding to your offense and how much are you just kind of relying on what you've done best all year?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you've heard me say this before, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I really believe offenses have to evolve week to week, based off of who you are, what's been going good for you, the opponent that you're playing to some degree, and what you've trained your players to be like throughout fall camp and then spring football specifically. So I don't know if adding is the right word. It's more evolving, which you have to be able to do as an offense. But you can't lose sight of what you've trained your football team to be. So you have to stay within a certain set of parameters, which we always do. But you have to evolve, to grow, to put new stresses on defenses, and not be repetitive, right, and predictable. And so that's not what we want to be. And so that we will always grow week to week.
Thanks, Coach. Andrew Clay, you're up for Coach.
Hey, Coach. First of all, I really respect the Shawneck cardigan. I did get mine for Christmas.
Looks great, man. I love it. That's good. Great color on you.
My question for you,
Andrew, the question for you is, did you put it on before this started or after you already saw Coach have his on?
So I was shaving and doing my hair when this all started, but my plan was to always wear this today. So I actually, it kind of both. My plan was absolutely to wear this today because it's brand new and I love it and it's so comfortable.
Well, maybe we could get some sort of internet poll of who wore it better, right? Between you and I.
You do.
Don't say that. I know it's not true. Let's leave it up to the great people of the world to vote. So somebody do one of those Twitter thingamabobs with the vote thing.
My football question is, Coach, you spend seems like every week there's a new wrinkle to your offense, a new scheme. I'm curious how much time you spend this time of year kind of inventing new twists to your offense or just perfecting what you already do.
Well, it's a combination of both those things, and it's a similar answer probably to the last question about, you have to evolve and you got to be careful that you're not totally reinventing yourself. I don't even like using that word, like reinventing, because that would indicate that we're doing it wrong the first way. So you have to seek inspiration that fits within the parameters of what you're doing. And so just as a staff, between access to film and watching other games, and you steal a lot of things that you think will complement what you're doing, but you have to, again, do something that's a little bit different, or at least going to appear different to the defense. You have to put some stress on the other side of the ball and not like, oh, I remember this play. That's not what we want to be at all. We always want to be adding stress to the defense, and adding new wrinkles, as you say, is one way to do that.
Thanks, Coach. We got a couple more before we get on to the student athletes here. I'm going to go up to Idaho. John Westrow. John, you're up for Coach Kotelnicki.
Hey, Andy. You mentioned the Boise State pass rush earlier, and you guys just faced a really good one in SMU. Just how does Boise State compare to them and some of the pass rushes you've seen in the Big Ten over there?
I don't know. It's hard to make comparisons, right? I think, elite players and elite statistics, if you will, are there for a reason, and then they show up. So you have to always. It's hard to make comparisons. I don't like doing it and say, oh, they're similar to this team or that team. They're one of a kind, right, as individuals, and they're one of a kind as a football team. So we have to do a good job up front with protection. And SMU was a good football team up front as well. Their strength was in the defensive front, much like Boise State's. And so we have to play well up front, and we have to slow that pass rush down for sure. We have we can't let that take the game over for sure.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to Daniel Gallen from Lions 247.
Appreciate your time this morning, Andy. You mentioned Danny O'Brien a little bit earlier. I was just wondering, how have you seen him grow in this quarterbacks coach role this year, especially in your first year, working with him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would tell you, I think, like anyone, as coaches, we want to get better every week. And he's understood that and embodied that himself. But seeing him take, ownership of the room, you know what I mean, and their performance, which I think is a great trait of any assistant coach, is that they don't ever point the fingers, if something's not going right. I think so. So Danny has embodied that and embraced that, and any adversity that we faced in that room, to want to be part of the solution and move forward and respond the right way are all things that he's been doing a really, really good job of. He's got a great relationship with the quarterbacks. And he's I think Audrey said this one of these times, suggesting that I was ancient, but he is a generational bridge between myself and the college-aged players, even though I'm not that old, but apparently old enough to say something like that, Audrey. Shame on you. Anyway, but he's done a good job of relating to the guys, and kind of communicating with them in a way that's a really steady, Eddie, calm voice for them and the quarterbacks.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go one more for Coach Kotelnicki, and then we'll go to John Patishnuck, sorry.
It's Patishnuck, Scott, but that's okay. I appreciate it.
I'm doing my best. I'll get you when you get here.
Hey, you can call me anything if you ask me if I get called on to ask a question. It doesn't always happen, so thanks. Andy, after the SMU game, James Franklin said that there isn't any difference anymore between college football and the NFL, that it's a grind on everyone, including the coaches. Beyond schematics, beyond play calling, are there any specific challenges you're facing this week simply because you're getting ready for the 15th game this season?
Yeah, I think, balancing, developing your current team, getting ready for a new opponent, onboarding new players that are already committed to your program, and recruiting other ones that you may want, other prospective student athletes. Juggling all of that is a challenge when you're in a playoff run for sure. But with coach, as coach says, you have to be able to compartmentalize it the best that you can. You can't. I think most importantly, what I appreciate the most about James is, in all those things, we really fancy ourselves as a developmental program, so we're not going to compromise in that area. We're going to make sure that our roster is being developed the way it needs to be, and the way we want it to be. And I think that but balancing those things have always been a challenge, but he's right. It's as hard as ever to do it all, and we're all tired, and we're all, playing game 15 here, whatever it is, and we've been here together every day and since whatever, the end of July, but that's what we signed up for. So we're competing for a national championship one at a time here, and we were talking yesterday, because we had practice yesterday, and we just said, where would you rather be? If someone said in July, hey, we're going to be practicing on Christmas because we're playing for a national championship, we're in the playoffs, you'd have signed up immediately. You said, hell yeah. And there's a lot of people that aren't doing press conferences today because they're not playing anymore. And we're blessed and fortunate to be doing that. And so there's moments where we need to make sure that we keep the main thing. The main thing, as tired as we are, we need to enjoy what we're doing here. And we are. And we're having a great time doing it. So it's a really good question. And James is exactly right. It's a challenge. It's very pro-like that way. But we still want to hopefully always keep the main thing, and that's people and relationships, and not make this game so transactional, which is really easy to become that way right now, but make it about developing and teaching and guiding and growing and helping people achieve their goals. And that's what we all got into it for. And so if you can keep the main thing, and you get used to being process oriented, you should enjoy your job, which we do, which is around here. But that's a really good question, John. I appreciate you asking it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And with that, we will dismiss Coach Kotelnicki to get back to game prep. We appreciate your time this morning here, this afternoon, where you are. And good luck, and we'll see you out here in a few days, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys.